Welcome to Deco Guide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by EdTechity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
What's up, everyone? It's Professor G, and once again, Tio Rob, and Minding Your Business podcast. So, Rob, thank you again once for joining us again. Literally, what you tell us, how you help influence our decisions is incredible. I've been implementing some of the work we've been talking about already, even in my own life, and just making it just that much a little better, you know what I mean? And so I'm hoping today you're going to be able to share with us a ton of examples, like real life examples of people you've worked with, etc., that have actually implemented some of these strategies, and then some of the results that you've seen and the growth that you've seen take place. So Rob, why don't you take it away?
I appreciate that. And once again, thank you very much for having me. I thoroughly enjoy this, and I'm hoping to inspire and maybe, motivate some people to approach their career, their education with some of these tools. So I thought today what I would do is I would kind of recap briefly. We talked a lot about being your best person, preparing you to be your best when you come into education, when you're going through your training, when you're going through your classes and so forth, getting your degree. And then when you finally hit the workplace, they bring those skills to your interviews, let people know, answer them what you can do to help them. What do they need? And how are you prepared to help them? That'll get you miles ahead. They don't want to hear your story necessarily, but they'd love to hear how you can help them. Okay, So those are all key things. So now you've gotten the job, whether you're a technician, HVAC technician, whether you're a professor, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a sales rep, doesn't matter. Okay, you're gonna deal with people, and that's the whole thing, man. You've got to be able to relate to people. You've got to accept people for who they are. You've got to practice the 4 agreements. Always being impeccable with your word, never making assumptions, never making assumptions, never taking things personal, right? And then always doing your best. So you bring those skills, that toolbox with you wherever you're going to go. Now, I can tell you examples over 50 years in business, and I didn't come to this right away, mind you, okay? The first, it took me at least 40 years of watching businesses to understand this part of it. I was spending the first 40 years of my career accepting what was being given to me as a challenge, as a problem, as an issue that needed to be resolved. And I just accepted it and said, here's the solution. Here's what I think is the best thing you folks should do with this problem. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with a partner. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with the customer, whatever.
My boss, right? There's a misunderstanding with my boss, right? Just, that happens. It's common.
It does. Right. So all kinds of bosses out there.
Yes, and some bosses are great bosses, and there's a lot more non-great bosses than there are.
Exactly. And so the point being, if you bring the toolbox with you into your career, into your business, into your job, it'll make it a lot easier to accept them and to have a reaction to whatever it is you're feeling, be a more positive and a more beneficial and workable reaction than blowing up and getting pissed. Okay?
Yeah, which is my problem for the last 30 years, right? Is getting pissed because I was taking things personal, right? It really had to do with the job, but not personal myself. And because I was taking things personal, I was making assumptions, and things really weren't working out in those early employment gigs, because I really didn't understand that I was, not only the 4 agreements, but I didn't understand I was part of a team. Right.
Well, that's it. And the key is, honestly, it's how you react to things. Okay, for example, let's say that there's a mistake in the warehouse somewhere, and they're looking at you like you're the one that's responsible. You did it, and you didn't do it. Okay, well, okay. So how are you going to react to that? Are you going to react angrily because they accused you and you were innocent? Are you going to help them find out the truth and just walk down? Here's what could have happened and so forth. So your reaction to being mistreated, your reaction to being accused of doing something you didn't do, your reaction to making a mistake, and being afraid to admit it or being afraid to react profitably to it. I look at it this way. Mistakes are all the lessons that we get to have in life. Okay, so you're gonna make mistakes too. The question is, do you learn from those mistakes? Okay. One of the best books I've read on the topic years ago, before any of you guys were probably born, there was a guy named Lee Iacocca. And Lee Iacocca ran Chrysler, and he was executive at Ford and so forth. And he was responsible for turning the Chrysler Motor Company around. And he had an engineer, a division leader one time, one of his most important employees, come in and say, Lee, I screwed up, man. I tell you, I made a big mistake. It's going to cost the company $65 million. And this is back in like 1983 or 85, something like that. He says, here's my letter of resignation.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. And Lee Iacocca looked at that resignation and he ripped it up. He says, are you out of your mind? I said, I just paid $63 million for your education. I guarantee you, you're not going to do that again. Okay. So the point being,
because that employee is going to know that mistake deep down inside and will never make that mistake again. So why would you get rid of them? I mean, you're right. I just paid $65 million for this guy. I'm keeping him. That's a great example you're using there, because you're right. Why would, I'm upset, but that person learned so much. And not only that, me keeping him as a boss will make them loyal to our organization more. You know what I mean? Exactly. And they become better employees.
It's like, I'll use another example. It's like getting your girlfriend pregnant because you forgot to take precautions, okay? It's a mistake. You better...
Right. So I'm not gonna lie. I was one of those. Luckily, I already had gotten through college. But our first kid unplanned.
Time to get married.
3 kids later, they were all unplanned. But hey, it's 3 kids later, But that first one was never really planned. But we wouldn't give her back for the world, right? It's like, wow, At first it's like, our life is just about to change dramatically. But it's one of those that you don't know the beauty of it, right? The results of it, and embracing it is always the best path that I've learned, especially when you think you've made a mistake.
Exactly. So I say these things because life with human beings is going to be full of misunderstandings, mistakes, complaints, making assumptions, and all these different things, okay? I can give you examples of businesses that I've worked with over the last 50 years. Some were exceptional at dealing with these issues, okay?
Okay, give me an example there. I want to hear what's an exceptional way to deal with something. Let's get very specific there. What's the problem, and then how did they deal with it?
So let's take, for example, a gentleman that I had as a client that was in the HVAC business. He installed heating and air conditioning systems on track homes. That was his deal. And he bid them with the developers and so forth. Well, in order to, he was not a very good businessman. He was a good salesman, and he got people to follow him correctly and all that, but he didn't know how to sell, and so he underpriced his bids because he wanted to get all the work. He figured he could make up for it on volume. Well, he didn't. Okay, and he hired me to kind of get through this thing and figure it out. He was doing millions of dollars in business, but he was unable to pay his suppliers because he wasn't collecting enough. By the time he got through with labor and everything else, he was unable to pay his suppliers. So it was
money all over the place. He wasn't able to collect to really show. Yeah. Okay.
So here's this gentleman, and he was a nice guy, and he just wasn't very smart in his business practices. And he opened up his company because he wanted an opportunity. He thought he had good relationships with all the developers and so forth. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to do it, but he didn't know how to price it correctly. He priced it for the developers. Great. So first of all, we went through and I made sure that he understood the foundation or the reasons behind his current situation. So we had to dig into everything and show him his labor costs and show him, his material costs and renting equipment and all those things. We had to break it down so I could see, look, the bottom line is you underpriced your product by about 8% in the marketplace. And therefore, it doesn't leave you enough money to pay your main supplier, the person that's selling you the air conditioning units that go into your company, that go into these things. And you can't take them back now,
Right.
So being a man of integrity and good intentions, he was willing to accept that he'd made a mistake and how he made it and so forth and so on. So I appreciated that. And I knew that I could work with that, with the majority of the people that he owed money to. It's a mistake he made. He wasn't prepared to make it, blah, blah, blah. But I did appreciate the way that he handled it. Okay. So we go marching into the supplier that sold him, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of HVAC units and so forth. And he was really upset. So the guy that we're walking into the office for did not practice the 4 agreements. Okay. All he did was just get super angry. And he said, I want my money. Give me my money. And I had to stop my client and say, just let me respond to this. I forget this guy's name at this point. It doesn't matter. He was in Texas, by the way. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, your money right now is installed in about 150 homes in the tract you've got over there. That's where your money is. The money is in the pocket of the developer that hired us to install this stuff at the price with which we agreed to install it. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple of options here. Either this gentleman that is with me that did this, that underpriced his product, he understands what he did wrong. And he understands that he made a mistake. And he understands that he could either claim bankruptcy and just say, sorry about that, man, I made a mistake. And no one wins. Or...
Right. Even the other guy isn't going to get paid, because if he declares bankruptcy, no one gets paid. Yeah,
exactly. So I said, let me offer you an alternative solution to this problem. It's a long-term solution, but you'll eventually get your money back. But you got to work with us to make this happen. And so very patiently, we went through everything, the idea, the plan, the repricing, the relationship with this guy's builders and developers that he was working with, and we came up with a solution. And in the process, I really had the opportunity to work with 3 kinds of people. My client, who had a lot of integrity and who was willing to do what he had to do. He wasn't trying to make any excuses. He just said, this is what happened. I get it. We had an opportunity to work with a supplier who was really kind of an asshole. And it took a while for us to...
He just wanted it cash.
So I said, look, I can show you...
Which I understand he's upset, right? Which is understandable. He's totally in the right. I would be pissed off too if I agreed to this price and now it's not that price anymore, right? Okay.
Exactly. So I said, so what I would like you to do is to patiently listen to what the solution might be to get your money back, or what the option is of not having you get any money back, you just claim in bankruptcy. Which would you rather hear? Well, how am I going to get my money back?
Right.
So by the time I got done with him, he understood. And it was I was able to do that. We did over 200 businesses that ran into these issues over a 15-year period of time. And I was able to successfully negotiate settlements with people about 85% of the time. 15% of the time we had to take some type of judicial action, some form of bankruptcy, some lawsuits were involved, any of those things. So the point being, you're going to bring, here you're a graduate. You have your technical degree, you have your bachelor's, you have your master's, whatever. You go into the workplace and so forth, and you can take that toolbox that you walk into, and whether it's your company that you started and you own it, maybe you started small and you grew, or it's a guy that you really would like to go to work for, kind of an emerging company, and you can kind of make a nice name for yourself in this smaller company and have room to grow, or you can go on a career path with a big company and hopefully work your way up the ladder. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter whether you're a mechanic, a technician, an executive, all those things. You have your educational toolbox now. And ideally, you have your personal toolbox. You're going to be ready to handle these issues. So with the combined knowledge of your education and your training and your self-improvement, things that you've done to prepare yourself to be the best guy in the locker room, the most understandable person, the person that's patient, the person that doesn't make assumptions. Now you can navigate your way.
Truthful, yes, yep.
Yeah.
And people want to work with you, right? And people will want to work with you, like, because you bring those things to the work.
Exactly. And when you bring both toolboxes to the table, there's going to have 3 wins involved here. Number 1, you're going to be able to leave at the end of the day feeling really good about yourself and what you're doing and how it's doing. You're going to make yourself, it's the foundation for true happiness. You have your skills aligned with your purpose in life and with the attitude that you have in life to seek happiness and avoid suffering in yourself and in others. You're bringing that to the table. Great. You're going to make your employer happy. It's wow, my fellow workers, my employees, the customers I interface with, all those things, they like and respect me because not only do I have an education, but I also have the toolbox to use it in a mutually beneficial win-win situation. And when I say win-win, I mean you have to win. Don't give up your own self. Don't shortchange yourself to appease somebody else. That's a lose-win. Don't overcharge somebody. Don't lie to anybody. Don't be the guy that is going to screw the guy. That's a win-lose. Only go for win-win. And if you can't, it's no deal. You just move on to the next one where I can find win-win. Okay? And that is unbelievably true advice.
Right.
And I've seen that the vast majority of businesses and places you can work are somewhere in between. Okay? And then the third win that you get to bring your accomplishments of the day. You get to bring your reaction to all the experience and all the lessons you've learned that day home to your family, to your spouse, to your kids, to your neighbor, whatever that might be. So you got your business life squared away, you got your personal individual life squared away, and you have your family life squared away. You can't help but win, man. You're going to be successful.
You're applying the same principles to your business. You're applying the same principles to your relationship, right? You're applying those same principles to the raising of your children. Once you understand how to apply those principles, right? And it's just basically those 4 agreements wherever you're going. And then implementing them, like this gentleman, right, who's truthful. He was like, hey, I got a problem. This is the problem. He was willing to hear and understand that, mistakes are made, right? And it was his mistake, and account for that, right? And then, not really make assumptions and going with you to renegotiate, whereas a win-win. Now, eventually, I'm sure the distributor got paid, right?
Yeah,
they were owed.
It took a few years, but it all worked out.
And your friend's skill level skyrocketed in terms of business and negotiation, right? And just really how to manage other people, including yourself, in those types of tense situations.
Now, I've got a couple of examples. There was a young man. He was young when I met him. He was in his 20s. He had just started a business, and he was from Mexico, and I got to meet him on social ideas, and I fell in love with his family, and he was such a solid person. He already came prepared with these other skills. Okay, he was already there. And he didn't know much about American business. He had a degree in Mexico in business, great, but he came up here, and now I don't know much. Can you help me, Rob? And I really embraced this guy. So I said, you bet. And so he moved his business from his garage to an office, and he brought me in that first year, and he did like $100,000 and some odd worth of business. And over the years, my advice to him was always seek win-win at all times. There's 3 positions that you can take in business. Okay, there's three things that you look at, you can choose from. One is price. You can be the low price leader. Okay, and that's going to attract you business because you found a way to do it more affordably than anybody. Number two, you could give the very best service of anybody, of any company. You could give outstanding service. And three, you could have the best quality of your product. So pick two of those three. You can't do all three.
Wow.
Pick two. Okay. So let's say that you decide that. So I suggested to this guy, based on where he is and the market he was in and so forth, I said, you know what? I rarely work with people that want to be the low price leader. They cut corners. You know, they have a short window of success. Because at some point you're going to lose, and at some point somebody else is going to find a way to do it cheaper or whatever that might be. So I said, no, why don't we stick with quality and service? And let's build your pricing on what's necessary to be a win-win for your client and to be a win-win for you and your company and your employees. He says, perfect. So we did that. That was in 2010. Okay. Today, he's got about 25 employees, 30 employees, something like that. He opened his third office. He does almost $4 million.
Wow.
And he is just a shining example of leadership for the people in his community, for the people that work for him, for his family. I mean, I love his family. I love going to see his. That's where I got the name Tio Rob. Okay. I really appreciate that. So he's lived his life, and I'm still his coach. We talk almost all the time. We talk several times a week, and he's asking me. Sometimes now it's about his life. It's about his daughter. It's about whether he should get a dog or not, and different things like this, right?
Right.
But, it is what it is, man. I've lived a very active life, and I've got a lot of experiences, and what I've done most of all is taken the thousands of mistakes that I've made in my life, and thankfully I've extracted the lessons from them. So it's going to be that way. So
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I've made 10,000 mistakes, and I'm somehow still around. So now it's time to teach others, right?
You're better educated than the rest of the people. That's the bottom line. And you can't go.
Lots of experience in mistake making here.
Exactly. Well,
between you and I, it's like 50, 60 years of mistake making.
We both got PhDs in life. Okay,
in errors. But the great thing is we're talking about them, right? Because that's how other people learn about them, and that's how other people avoid the same mistakes, and will make their own mistakes, and that's okay.
Well, you know what? I don't always learn. I burned the heck out of my thumb. I picked up a cast iron pot out of the oven without wearing an oven mitt because I forgot. Ouch. Okay. And hurt like hell. And that's the first time I've done that in 20 years. Yeah. Because I forgot the lesson. Hey, Rob, don't grab hot things without a pot holder. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are all. Now, the other lesson I'll give you, in the mid 90s, I had a client in Sacramento. I was living in the Bay Area, and it was a very exciting company. Young guy and his partner, they were in the insurance business. And I had a lot of experience in insurance, and I've done those things before. I've built agencies and sold them. And he hired me because he says, look, my business is worth about $500,000 right now, based on the amount of business I've got, the profit I'm making, and so forth. But I want to sell it in 5 years for $5 million. What do I have to do? Okay. Well, we sold PS. We sold it 2.5 years later for $6.5 million. Okay.
Wow. So the result was you accelerated the sale for more, and I'm sure he was happy, but he didn't get there overnight.
No. Well, I parked myself there for quite a while. Okay.
Okay.
And I developed. Matter of fact, his goal. And I had just gotten through working with troubled businesses. For a long time, that's all I worked with, were businesses that accomplished a lot, made a lot, and so forth, and were really in the doghouse for a lot of reasons, right? This guy wasn't that way. He wanted to hire me. He said, look, I'm doing well. but I want your help at growing. And that's when I got rid of I broke up my consulting company. I gave the troublesome businesses to all the other guys I had working for me. And I said, I'm going to specialize in kind of one-on-one work with businesses that want to grow. So I said, this guy's name was Mike. I said, Mike, you're a perfect candidate for this. He was in his mid to late 20s. And I was in my 40s, and I'd had a lot of experience doing this, and I knew a lot of people in the business. So now he and his partner were open to coaching. Okay, they were both college athletes and so forth. One was into wrestling, one was into football, and so they had been competitive, and they got to know each other afterwards. And they didn't always get along, but they had a good complementary association. But man, they had a lot of competitive spirit that was not seeking win-win necessarily. It was seeking win-lose.
Got it. Yes. Okay? From their background as being athletes, right? And that's normal. Exactly. I mean, of course, in a game, there's always going to be a winner and loser, right?
Exactly.
And we just, the way we live our lives, sometimes that's how we constantly think. And you're in here helping them explore this other option now.
Exactly. So I'm telling you.
So how did you do that?
Well, so I said, look, we're not wrestling or playing football anymore. Okay. We want our clients to win. We want you to win. We want these people that are working for you to win. Okay. That's the bottom line. There's no losers in this game, because if there's a loser in this game anywhere up and down the line, we're not going to win. Ultimately, it'll catch up with us, and it won't work. So once you embrace that, okay, now here's what we're going to do. I said, I've been advising and restoring the health to businesses for a long time, and I want to codify what I've been doing for all these other companies, and I'm going to use you as my example, if you're willing. They said, sure, great, sounds wonderful. I said, good. So I wrote a program called Foundation for Performance, and it connected the expectations of everybody in the company, because you answer the phone, you're creating an expectation with who's ever on the other line. They're giving you something to do, either take something and understand it, or pass it on to somebody else, or what have you. You're going to be connected to somebody else in the company. So then that's that person. So I've interviewed that person. I said, what do you need from this person? I need this, 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 and this. I said, great. And then who do you give it to? Well, I give it to this person. And what do they need? So I went throughout the company. I said, when the phone rings or somebody walks in the door, until the commission is put in the bank and being distributed, how does your company work? Okay. So I designed this entire process. I called it building a map. I said, let's say you want to go from California to New York and you want to see some exciting sites along the way. You're going to need a map. You're going to need to know how you get there. You're going to know what the sites are. So I'm going to build a map for your company, how to successfully, attract somebody to come to your business, and how you can put the money in the bank on the other end, having everybody win. Great. It took about 18 months to really engineer, design, and do all those things. But we wound up with a flawless system. Everybody had what they needed. And what we did was we engineered
to do their individual job at this company, which in effect makes it more efficient. A lot more efficient. And people are happier.
The people inside are happier, because now we are engineering to a very large degree the personal experience necessary for me to correctly align with you and have you understand me, and you and vice versa, because that's where the problems occur, right? I develop an expectation in you. I expect you to have certain reactions to it. You don't have those reactions. The other guy's pissed because the expectations that he thought I was presenting weren't there. All those things are the basis for business failures. They're the business for personal failures. They're the business for relationship failures. Okay? Setting false expectations, not intentionally necessarily, but because you didn't know. And you didn't communicate it clearly. So this took
you're assuming expectations.
Exactly. So this process took the subjective nature of interpersonal relations and it turned it into an objective. It's like following a recipe for making something. I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. By the time you're done and a mistake is made, there's only two reasons for that mistake to have been made. One, somebody didn't follow the map, they didn't follow the process, or the process was not designed correctly. That's it. There are no other options, okay? So you do this and you establish it. And over the years, things change, right? In other words, technology changes. And so you have to readjust the process map to accommodate changes in technology, in innovation, in growth.
A new product. And, if you're growing, you're offering more insurance products or whatever it is that you're building, right? Or providing a new service. Yeah,
exactly. Now
it has to be put through so then you would have to put that through the same process to ensure that that becomes an efficient part of not only the employee's life and having them, getting everything they need, but also the profitability and the efficiency of the company.
Exactly. And so I implemented that at this person's business, and they rode this system, right, to explode the growth of their business, to get unbelievable satisfaction from their clients. And then they sold out to a big company that I happen to know, and they distributed some of the money around the company, and the guys that did it, they pocketed a bunch, and it was all good. Now the landlord, where these guys were in business in Sacramento, was introduced to me. The client was looking at, the landlord was looking at the growth of this company, what's happening. He said, wow, what's going on? Well, meet Rob Ferguson. Okay. And this guy was a super guy. He was in his 70s. He was English. He had co-founded a very successful company in San Francisco. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come down and talk to my company?" They had about 150 employees at the time, and they were in the office furnishings business. Okay. So I said, love to. So I went through and I began doing this process. In the process, I wound up, my wife was ready to leave the home. We were empty nesters at that point. And she came to work for them. That was 26 years ago. Now, in the process, they all fit the definition of only wanting win-win. These were also really good people. You could write a book on how to on honesty, on not making assumptions, on treating people fairly and well. And I mean, they were at the cutting edge of all of those things, in the heart of the Silicon Valley. And they wanted to be super responsible people. Well, they grew and grew and grew, and they got Apple and all these big companies as their clients and so forth. And I watched them grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And the leaders of this company, the next generation actually is on the company now. I marvel at what they do, because I get to have my wife will tell me what's going on today and how they handle their business. And they're handling their business in an exceptional way. And as a result, they're the leading company of their brand and what they do in the United States. And it's an amazing place to work. You want to be a part of this team. Now, that doesn't mean that they're without problems. It doesn't mean that they don't have the bad apple now and again that's going to make life difficult for everybody else. They have that, but they find ways of dealing with it correctly. And I appreciate it and admire that. So it's that same technology, this foundation for performance, this building a process map that I put into the other company I mentioned, the startup company, in 2016, because he was getting some drama in his company. This guy thought maybe he was the best guy and so forth and so on. He said, "Rob, you got to help me get rid of this drama." So I said, "Great." We did two things. We put the 4 agreements in and had 4 one-hour lunch sessions on that over every Friday for 4 weeks. We discussed that. And then we built the process map on everything. And so between the two, he's poised, he'll become a $10 million company in the next 5 years. No question about that in my mind, if he wants to,
If he implements and stays on the plan. Yeah.
And he may not have that goal. That is the other thing I would like everybody to understand, that making a lot of money and having a big bank account and having a luxury car and having a luxury home and so forth may not mean a damn thing in terms of your overall health and happiness. Matter of fact, it may be a detriment to it.
That might be your death sentence.
Yeah, exactly. So
because you ain't going to take it with you.
So there's three questions that I learned to ask myself about 10 years ago now, as I'm going through trying to understand from all these lessons I've learned in my life, right? Okay, I've learned a lot of lessons. I want to make sense of it all. So I heard a guy, he's a famous author named Deepak Chopra, okay? And I went to a session he's got. He says, you know what? There's three questions you should ask yourself. And you're not asking these questions of you. You're asking the universe to give you the answers because you don't know the answers at this point. And those three questions are, number one, who am I? Number two, what do I want? And number three, what is my purpose? So I left that meeting that night, that 3-hour audience I was a part of, 1,000 people up in Folsom. I asked myself those questions until the answers began to come to me. And they presented themselves one by one by one. And as a result of all of that, I was able to put the lessons in my life in total organized fashion. I was able to digest them and repeat them and share them. I was able to land where I'm living up here now because it's the absolute perfect place for me. I was able to sustain my 50-plus year relationship with my wife. My kids are on the property. My granddaughters had a bunch of friends come over on our recent holiday, and they told me they were all sitting around a fire pit out in front of our house there, right? All these kids, all these 18, 19, 20-year-olds, my granddaughters and their friends. And they gave me the greatest present ever. I mean, they told me how much they loved me and how much they wanted me to share with them some of these things.
Wow.
And these are these are kids that are going to Berkeley. These are kids that are going to college. They're high school grad. Whatever they're doing, you know. But the fact that I was able to express and inspire on some of these notions, man, that was worth all the money in the world.
In itself. Exactly. Yeah. Yes, all the money in the world, because it comes full circle, right? You know, where you get to see, you know, the work that and the evolution of your own life, right? The evolution, and that's what we're all on, the evolution of our lives, right? Mine's been evolving since I was born. and so being part of that next generation, you know, really being present and asking questions and being around it. I mean, that you can't pay people to do that. You know, that comes out of love.
Exactly.
Yeah. Congratulations.
No, thank you. That means a lot to me. And the other thing I'd like to address maybe the next time we get together, okay? I want to make sure that people are prepared financially to enter the workplace, to enter their careers. And there's I was a financial planner for a long time as well, did a lot of estate planning and all that kind of thing. So it's
absolutely. Let's dive into, and you know, for the listeners out there, we're going to be diving into some financial stuff because I still don't know how to manage, you know, my finances. I know I can tighten things up a lot better than I've been managing. And it really it's a skill that takes a while to learn. And we would love if you could share some of those in various episodes with us because of the importance of financial stability.
Well, and the fact is, I mean, so the first, say, 10, 15 years of my career was really focused on risk management and insurance and things of that nature. And that has a lot to do with planning and financial planning. And then the next was resolving the issues created by businesses that were going through troubled times. And the final was helping businesses grow. Having said that, especially when I'm in that middle category, I'm helping businesses, you know, recover from financial mismanagement or what have you, right? They reacted poorly to things. I had to go deep diving into the owner of the business's personal finances, some of his employees' personal finances, how people got paid, you know, when they got paid, all
what was the amount they were getting paid? Yeah, the benefits of that. Yes, right, absolutely.
Now in the Bay Area, or even in the Sacramento area now in California, we have some real challenges, okay? We have some challenges on buying a house. We have challenges on financing things. We have there's a big gap between what you get paid to live in this area and what you need to get paid in this area.
There is, and I worry about, you know, this ballooning effect, right? Again, because our economy has been there before. right? And I mean, I'll be honest with you. One of my close friends just bought a house, $600,000, and I'm like, ooh, that's a massive mortgage a month, and and I worry, right? And I'm like, oh my God, that's gonna be this $5,000 a month.
There's this fellow I'm telling you about, that was my ideal client, this guy that has the business. He bought a house last year for $1.4 million.
Wow.
And they said, Rob, should I do this now? I mean, is this the right time? What's going on? So we helped through the process. He owns the house. So it's all worked out. Okay. So the point being
that we can get you there, right? We can get people there. But you can't get there overnight, right? That just doesn't exist. And if it does, you're doing something really bad.
Exactly.
Right? So, but we can get most people there, right? And it starts with that inventory of self, right? Like we started with our first episode, right? Is
exactly,
identify that there's a problem and admit to it. And then we can begin with the 4 agreements and learning about how to adjust our behaviors so that the results are different.
It's all about your reactions to things, right? How you react.
Yeah. And I mean, I got a nasty. I'm gonna be honest with you, Theo. I got a nasty email the other day from someone who was taking things personal. Right. And so you also start to now see, the way you behave versus the way other people behave. Right. And then I started identifying like, oh my God, this person isn't practicing the 4 agreements.
Well, let me ask you this. How much control do you have on the other person's behavior?
None.
Exactly.
None. I have no control on how other people behave. I can only control how I behave.
That's right. So these are all the lessons, man. And I think that if people listening to this every morning, noon, night, throughout the day, ask themselves those 3 questions. Who am I? What do I want? And what's my purpose? When you get all 3 of those things lined up in your life, and you're leading a life that responds to those 3 things, it's aligned with your purpose. That's really important. And you're not shooting, it took me a long time to realize that, what I really wanted. And this is what I want now, okay? So I'm living my best life. And I would encourage people to not wait until they're in their 70s before they get there.
Yeah, you're right.
You start on that direction, it's going to pay off for you for sure.
That's right.
So once again, I'd love to have people, give us questions, man. Throw some stuff out there that, all right, that sounds good, Rob, but, okay? Right. Give me the buts.
Right. All right, you heard it here first. Robs wants your questions. Any questions, any problems you have, go ahead and look at his contact information in our description. If you're watching this on any of our social media channels, post a question. Just pose a question on social media. As we go through these, we will respond to your questions and really decide on which episodes to push out next based on that demand of what people want to know and what we can help them with. So, much appreciated again, you wanting to and allowing our public to reach out to you, because Rob,
it makes the best content.
It does. It really does. And we're here at our age nowadays. We're here to help. We don't need your money. We don't need anything else. We're here to help people live their best life, right? And that's what you've been doing here for decades now. So however we can help, with Inspírame and Techo Guide, we'd be happy to help.
See, that's it. And I mean, you have a very, very valuable and complicated tool. You've simplified what it takes to get your path there, which is amazing. And I love that. I think that's so important. I was talking to the people around my fire pit out there. There's 9 people in the teens to early 20s that, what do I do? And I was giving them, what to do, get a hold of Techo Guide and all that. So they appreciated that, but they also appreciated having the foundation of which bridge to cross, right? What kind of behaviors to take with them, what to expect out there, okay? And to let go of their current assumptions on a lot of things, empty out your assumption closet and replace it with openness and replace it with faith and replace it with knowing who you are, what you want, and not making assumptions, not judging people, all that stuff, man, you're going to get there, and it'll be an unbelievable life. Your family, your friends, your loved ones, and so forth. Wow, man, you really got your shit together, don't you? Well, thank you.
Well, thanks again, Rob, once again for the hour you spend with us on a weekly basis to really help us live our best lives. And if you haven't heard about what we're talking about here, please review our previous 5 episodes so that you understand that, these guys are talking about those 4 agreements and how important they are for us to know them, and then how important they are for us to implement them in our daily lives. And that is really what you shared with us today, is those examples of those 3 and 4 businesses that you've assisted, and how you really got them to a win-win in some cases for everyone, right? And that's really the motto of doing business, is where everybody wins.
Exactly.
So thanks again, Rob.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me. I tell you, this is this just elevates me to a level of happiness, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what I've got.
And those of you listening, don't forget to download our Tickle Guide app, follow us on social media, and share our videos. I know you know someone that needs to get back into school, right? I know you know someone that would be a great HVAC technician, that would be a great microbiologist, that would be a great, just anything other than what they're doing now. So please listen to our content. If you don't use it for yourself, use it for somebody else. Refer people to the content, because that's what we're all about here, is helping you live your best life, helping you get that training, get that education that you may be wanting, that you may be seeking for, and how to get it in the most affordable way possible. So thanks again, Rob, for the connection, and we'll be in touch.
You got it. Thank you so much again. I sure appreciate it, Professor. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into Tickle Guide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.